Welcome to the deep dive, where we really try to get under the skin of some complex stories and big ideas.
And today we're definitely diving deep into something quite intense. It's this journey of a self-made man, someone who climbs this incredible intellectual mountain only to find, well, not much up there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We're drawing on sources that detail the whole roller coaster, the physical work, the brain work, the moral battles. We're looking at Martin Eden. He's caught between, hard labor and high culture.
Right, and our goal here really is to pull out what this tells us about class, about educating yourself from scratch, and maybe how society values creativity or maybe doesn't value it unless it fits a certain mold.
Exactly. Contrasting his sort of raw vision with the, let's say, often hypocritical standards of the cultured folks he encounters.
And we meet Martin, our protagonist, and he's already marked, isn't he? Physically. There's that scar on his cheek.
Oh yeah, the scar from a snapping wire rope on a ship during a storm. It's not just decoration. It's like a badge of a different life, a rough life.
And that life is about to smash right into a totally different world, embodied by a woman, Ruth Morse, and this intoxicating idea of knowledge.
That collision, that's the heart of it, isn't it, where we need to start.
Absolutely. It all kicks off with Ruth and her surroundings. When Martin first steps into her world, it's like stepping onto another planet. It hits all his senses.
The sources really linger on his reaction to her. It's all about beauty, but a kind of beauty he's never even conceived of before. Like her laugh, he doesn't just hear laughing.
No, it's silver bells. That's the phrase he uses. And his mind just takes flight, right? He imagines himself instantly transported somewhere magical, like under a cherry tree in blossom, hearing pagoda bells.
It's this immediate, powerful sense that, wow, there's a whole dimension of refinement out there he knew nothing about.
And that beauty instantly throws his own background into sharp relief. He becomes incredibly self-conscious. You see him trying so hard to fit in, to say the right things.
Using yes, miss, and yes, ma'am. Very formal.
Very formal, and he's actively fighting his instincts, like the urge to say "I, sir" to her brothers, the way he would on a ship.
Because that would immediately place him, wouldn't it, as subordinate, as working class.
Exactly. And his pride, which is massive, we learn just bristles at that. He's thinking, I'm as good as these people. But then when they call him Mr. Eden, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, he feels this rush like I'm being seen as civilized. For the first time, maybe.
But the gap, the class divide, it's visceral. It comes down to their hands. That's such a powerful image.
He looks at his own hand, right?
Yeah.
And he knows the grime, the calluses, they're permanent fixtures. Years of hauling ropes, scrubbing floors, it's etched in. His hand is a work tool.
And then he looks at Ruth a hand.
Delicate. Like a rose petal or a snowflake, he thinks. It's unreal to him.
And he calls it a caste mark. That's the term. He instantly gets it. He realizes he's never seen a woman's hand that soft because all the women he knows, their hands tell a different story.
A painful story. He immediately thinks of his sister Gertrude.
Her hands all red and swollen from constant washing.
And his other sister, Marion, with scars from the cannery, lost finger joints to a machine.
So Ruth's delicate hand isn't just about her. It represents a whole class of people who don't have to do that kind of damaging labor. People whose lives are built on the backs and the hands of others.
Oof. So when he leaves that house, the quiet, clean, beautiful house, and goes back to his own world.
The kitchen smell, spirits cursing, and talk of rent.
Yeah.
The contrast is just brutal, that galling feeling, as the source calls it.
And he makes a decision right then and there. He has to become worthy of that other world of Ruth.
It's not just about learning things, it's about transforming his entire being. And his first steps are almost endearingly practical.
He looks in the mirror, doesn't he? And makes this promise to himself.
Martin Eden, the first thing you do tomorrow morning is to read something about the rules of good taste, straight to the library.
And he vows to stop cursing immediately. It shows that working class mindset, maybe. Tackling the problem head on, step by step.
He treats politeness like a trade skill he needs to learn. Like, okay, what are the rules? How does this system work?
It even gets down to the basics, like Ruth asked him to call again. But when? Is tomorrow too soon? He doesn't know the protocol.
So he actually goes to the library to research etiquette on that. He has to ask the librarian, calling her Miss Smith, until he knows better about visiting hours and social rules.
It just shows you the sheer scale of the mountain he feels he has to climb. It's not just books. It's this whole universe of unspoken social codes designed, maybe, to keep people like him out. And he's going to learn them systematically.
And the self-education he undertakes, it's not just hitting the books. It's brutal. It's almost a form of self-punishment.
Yeah, radical's the right word. He sees it as this all-out war against his own limitations, against time itself.
Look at the schedule he sets himself. 19 hours a day. That's what he decides he needs for work and study.
19 hours. How do you even do that? He cuts his sleep down to 5 hours, then eventually only 4.
But it's how he enforces it. That's the truly extreme part. It wasn't just willpower.
You mean the spur?
Yeah, the spur. He'd literally jam a steel spur into his mattress, pointing up. If he overslept and rolled onto it.
Ow! The pain would wake him up instantly.
Exactly. And he kept this up for months. It's like almost a religious fervor, this drive for knowledge. It's beyond just wanting to learn. It's self-flagellation.
And every single second had to count. He wasn't just reading. He was like multitasking his learning.
Totally. Slips of paper everywhere, words, pronunciations stuck in the mirror by the lamp in his pockets.
Studying while shaving, while cooking, while washing dishes, waiting in line for food, optimizing every single moment.
He genuinely believes that pure brute force effort can bridge any gap, overcome any lack of formal schooling.
Which naturally puts him on a collision course with Ruth.
Yeah.
Because she represents the establishment way of learning.
Right. She tries to steer him towards traditional academics. She sees his lack of schooling as, a problem to be fixed with grammar lessons in high school.
She wants to shape him into her ideal, doesn't she? Someone respectable, like her father, or this Mr. Butler character. She's genuinely bothered by his incorrect sentence structure.
She tells him point blank, you need to start with grammar. Which, objectively, was probably true.
And he tries. He actually studies for the high school entrance exam.
But he fails. Professor Hilton, the principal, basically tells him he's years behind, needs basic schooling first.
And that rejection,
Yeah.
it doesn't crush him. It does the opposite.
It fuels his independence. He basically says, forget the system. He argues later that teachers are just guides pointing things out on a map. They don't make the map.
He insists he can learn faster on his own anyway because schools have to teach to the slowest kid in the class.
And that's when you really see this fierce individualism taking hold. Almost a kind of Nietzschean vibe, the self-made man rising above the institutional herd.
This path, his own path, leads him straight to Herbert Spencer.
Ah, Spencer, that's the key. Spencer's philosophy gives him the framework, the system he's been craving to make sense of all the random facts he's been absorbing.
It changes everything for him. Evolution, progress, seeing connections everywhere.
He says throwing away Spencer would be like a sailor ditching his compass and charts. It's that fundamental to his new worldview.
And he applies it immediately. He reads Spencer's philosophy of style and gets this idea that true genius isn't just having original thoughts. It's about synthesis.
Yeah, like Darwin pulling together insights from gardeners and stock breeders. Martin realizes his own power is maybe in connecting vast amounts of information from different fields.
This gives him a new kind of confidence, doesn't it? Enough to actually debate with Ruth Circle, like that discussion with Olney.
Right, Olney, one of Ruth's university friends, they get into it about the usefulness of Latin and general culture.
Olney basically argues it's all useless BS unless you're a lawyer or a pharmacist. He even mocks Ruth, saying she studied Old English for years and can't remember any of it.
He's making a very utilitarian argument knowledge should be practical. And Martin, he actually kind of agrees with Olney's logic. Secretly.
But then his loyalty to Ruth kicks in. He jumps to her defense, says she's his teacher. Everything he knows is because of her. He says his love for her is above reason.
And that's the core conflict right there, isn't it? His mind is becoming radical, individualistic, fueled by Spencer and this almost social Darwinist edge.
While his heart is still tethered to Ruth and the conventional bourgeois world she represents, he's becoming this intellectual rebel, but he's doing it all for a woman who just wants him to conform.
Oh.
But this whole intellectual quest, it doesn't pay the bills. Not even close. He's constantly broke, often starving.
Which forces him, at one point, back into manual labor. And the description of that job, the laundry at Hot Springs, it's just hellish.
An inferno, the text calls it. It's completely dehumanizing work. He's working alongside this guy, Joe Dawson.
Joe, yeah, the alcoholic. But the source makes it clear, his drinking isn't just a weakness, it's a coping mechanism. He says he'd cut my throat or burn the place down if he didn't get drunk sometimes.
Because the work is just relentless. 19-hour days, steaming heat, nonstop physical exertion.
And Joe becomes Martin's mentor, but in this awful way, teaching him maximum efficiency for maximum exhaustion. how to shave off seconds, eliminate movements.
They're working flat out till midnight, so tired they don't even have time for a cold bath afterwards.
It really drives home how that kind of industrial labor just grinds people down. It turns them into machines. Joe's drinking is almost rational in that context.
And Martin, even though he's strong, he becomes that machine too, for a while.
But only 7 weeks. It breaks him. He ends up going on a binge with Joe, seeking that same oblivion.
And that's how he quits, right? Sends a telegram from the bar while they're drunk.
Yep, just cuts the cord. Joe's heartbroken. "Are you leaving me, Mart?" Martin tells him, "Quit. Go be a hobo. Be free."
Joe has this brief moment of hope, imagining sleeping for 1,000 years. But Martin, even exhausted, his mind snaps right back to his real goal.
Writing. He thinks, okay, back to the plan. And he applies that same kind of almost mechanical logic he learned in the laundry to the writing business.
He does the math. Figures he can churn out 3,000 words a day.
Yeah.
At the advertised rate for top magazines, 2 cents a word, minimum.
He calculates he should be making $60 a day. Easy money, respected work. He thinks he's cracked the code.
And then reality hits. Hard. He gets that first acceptance letter.
From the Transcontinental Monthly, a small, sealed envelope. His story, the ding-dong, the Russian one. They accepted it.
5,000 words. That's like 2 days of his intense writing schedule. And the payment.
$5.
$5.
Yeah, not 60. 5? That's what, a tenth of a cent per word?
It's not just the low pay, though. It's the crushing realization that the whole image he had of the literary world, it was a fantasy, a lie, basically.
The prestige, the decent pay, it was all just bait for hopefuls like him. He calls his ideas secondhand, totally naive.
And then it gets even uglier. He finds out about the scams.
Oh, the outright theft. He learns later that his $5 from the Transcontinental, the editor used it to paint his house.
His story literally bought paint.
And another paper in Chicago just pockets the $10 they owed him for an article. His intellectual labor is treated as completely worthless, something you can just take.
So he's fighting this financial battle, this disillusionment, and at the same time, he's fighting an aesthetic battle with Ruth.
Because her taste is completely conventional, shaped by professors and established critics like Praps and Vanderwater. She thinks they're the final word on what's moral and elevated writing.
So when Martin's stuff doesn't sell, she just assumes it's bad. She's horrified by his realism, calls his story, The Kettle, terrible.
But Martin sees something else. He sees her reaction, her pale face, her shining eyes after reading it. He knows he reached her. He communicated the raw truth of it.
He argues back, passionately. He says he's writing about life, about reality. His goal is to give voice to these complex, messy things he sees and feels. Like a dog dreaming, finally able to bark its dream.
He just finds the accepted standards, the bourgeois taste, completely fake. He hates opera for that reason.
Yeah, the example of the huge singers pretending to be young lovers. He sees it as this ridiculous, unnatural performance that values convention over truth.
Meanwhile, Ruth can only parrot what she's been taught. Successful people must be right because they're successful. You're failing, so you must be wrong. She even admits the phrase joy of creation means nothing to her personally. She just read it somewhere.
The gap between them is just vast. His gritty, hard-won realism versus her comfortable, inherited ideas about art. It feels completely unbridgeable at this point.
And maybe, to really understand the kind of brutal truth Martin was trying to capture, the stuff Ruth found so terrible, we should touch on those other stories mentioned in the sources, the adventure tales.
The Alaskan ones, yeah. Because they really reflect that harsh survivalist ethic that Martin himself kind of embodies, right? That unbridled power Ruth is so afraid of.
Exactly. These aren't stories about polite society. They're about life and death situations where morality gets flexible or just gets overridden by the will to survive or maybe the will to defy degradation.
Like in The Man Who Lost Face. That's a stark one.
It is. Subienko, the Polish trader, he's captured. He knows he's facing a horrific, slow torture. He's already seen what they did to the Cossack Ivan, and he just refuses to endure that humiliation.
So he uses his wits in this incredibly high-stakes bluff.
Totally. To avoid being tortured by Yakaga, this guy he'd previously whipped, he does something completely unexpected. He demands the ugliest woman in the tribe as his wife.
The one with the crooked eye and wolf teeth.
Yes, and then claims he has magic medicine that protects against axe blows. He forces the chief, Makamuk, into this public test. His life is on the line.
He performs this ritual, rubs on some ointment, mutters a line from the French national anthem like it's a spell.
And then tells Makamuk to strike. The axe comes down, clean beheading, instant death.
Which is exactly what he wanted. He chose a quick end over drawn-out suffering.
And in doing so, he completely outsmarted them. He won, in a way. Makamuk loses face because he couldn't deliver the promised torture, couldn't break the prisoner's will. Subienkow defied them to the very end. It's about willpower conquering circumstance, even in death.
Then there's the dog, marked. That's a different kind of survival, more cynical.
Oh, marked as pure self-interest on four legs. The narrator hates his supposed friend, McKay, for leaving him with this creature.
Because the dog is smart, but utterly treacherous.
He's the ultimate survivor. Knows exactly when to disappear when food runs low and the humans start eyeing the other dogs. He always comes back when it's safe.
And then becomes famous for killing 19 prize chickens. He's just this permanent liability, this symbol of purely selfish, amoral survival instinct, a burden left by a scoundrel.
And contrast that with Golden Dawn. That's about loyalty, but also defiance.
Marie Chauvet and Dave Walsh, the huge pioneer who falls for her instantly, promises her devotion forever, even from the grave.
But his own heroic stubbornness kills him. He insists on carrying this freezing Indian man through 75 below weather to save him.
Saves the Indian, freezes his own lungs, and dies. A kind of pointless heroism, maybe?
Or just excessive devotion. And it leaves Marie in a terrible spot. Her father owed a huge debt to this miser, Porportuk.
So she has to sell herself, literally, in an auction. She accepts Porportuk's bid, agreeing to be his dog, $26,000.
But then her final act, it's pure defiance.
After the deal is done, the leftover gold dust, $6,000 worth.
She just dumps it straight into the Yukon River in front of everyone.
She lets him buy her body, her servitude, but she denies him the full financial satisfaction and humiliates him publicly. Her spirit remains her own. He owns her, but he doesn't own her.
Right. So you have cunning defiance, cynical self-preservation, and this tragic defiant servitude. These are the kinds of raw, morally complex realities Martin's trying to write about.
And you can see why Ruth, with her ideals of moral and elevated literature, would find it all deeply disturbing. It's the opposite of neat and tidy. It's life with the gloves off.
But even though Martin is absorbing all this harsh philosophy, this Spencerian individualism, this brutal realism, his own innate sense of kindness maybe keeps breaking through.
Yeah, that moment just before the Thanksgiving dinner is really telling. He's finally got that $5 the payment for the ding-dong, the story that bought the editor's house paint.
And he desperately needs that money. He needs it to get his good suit out of the pawn shop so he can actually go to the Morse's dinner, his big chance, maybe.
But his landlady, Maria Silva, she's in trouble. The police have taken her cows, her livelihood.
Yeah.
And she needs exactly $5 to get them back.
And Martin gives it to her. He gives away his ticket to the dinner, his chance to impress Ruth's family, to help this working-class woman.
It's pure solidarity, isn't it?
Yeah.
He chooses community, the community he came from, over his ambition to join the elite.
Which, of course, leads to disaster with Ruth. When she finds out why he missed the dinner because he chose charity over this crucial social event, she's livid.
She cries, calls him irresponsible, tells him he needs to give up this writing nonsense and get a real job. Post office, maybe?
She completely fails to see the profound responsibility he actually did show, just not towards her world. Her disappointment is the final straw for their relationship at that point.
So after that, things get really bleak for Martin. He hits rock bottom.
Absolute rock bottom. Starvation, actual sickness, typhus. He sells everything he owns, coat, watch, bicycle, just to survive. He's poured his entire life force into his art, and he's got nothing. Rejection from the market, rejection from Ruth. He's nearly dead.
And then, the punchline. Success arrives.
And it's so late. And it comes in this bizarre, chaotic flood. It's completely disconnected from his current state of near collapse.
Editors suddenly start accepting stories they had rejected multiple times before, usually the more commercial stuff he wrote early on.
White Mouse magazine sends $40 for the Vortex, one of the ones Ruth hated.
Then more checks come pouring in. Big ones, relatively speaking. $350 for Brissenden's poem, Ephemera, that Martin submitted after his friend died. $300 for his story, Adventure.
It's chaotic because there's no rhyme or reason to the timing. The industry didn't suddenly recognize his genius. It just finally started pitting for stuff he'd almost forgotten about, stuff he considered lesser work, right when he was about to give up entirely.
The irony is just brutal. Now that he's got money coming in, he's suddenly acclaimed.
Right.
People who ignored him before are crawling out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah. Bankers, club presidents, even the high school principal who dismissed him.
The same principal who didn't even recognize him when Martin was literally starving right in front of him a few months earlier.
Now they're inviting him to dinner, slapping him on the back, talking about the genius in the ding-dong, or Perry and the Pearl stories he sold for pennies or had to fight editors for.
And Martin sees it all with this cold clarity. They're not celebrating him or his work. They're celebrating the idea of his success. They're celebrating his bank balance.
Which leads to that final, absolutely devastating confrontation with Ruth.
She comes back. Now that he's successful, famous, rich, suddenly her parents approve. Suddenly she realizes she loved him all along. She finds him in his fancy new hotel room at the Metropole.
And Martin just dissects it. He's calm, cold almost. He asks her point blank, "Why didn't you come to me when I was starving, when I was living in that filthy room?"
He tells her, "I'm the same Martin Eden. Same brain, same thoughts, same person. Nothing about him has changed."
Only the externals, the fame, the money.
And he lays it out. That's all people value. The recognition, the cash, things outside the actual person. His worth was invisible until it was validated by dollars and headlines.
He concludes her love is conditional. It has to be weighed against social approval, against financial security. And he rejects her. He rejects everything she stands for.
Before the very end, though, he tries to make amends, doesn't he? With the people who did love him unconditionally, like Lizzie Connolly.
Lizzie, the working-class girl who loved him just as he was. He tries to give her money, set her up, maybe pay for courses, or buy her family a shop.
But he realizes, even as he offers it, that it's meaningless. His money feels cheap compared to what she offered him, herself, completely, without conditions.
He can't buy back that authenticity. He can't compensate for that kind of love with cash. The gap is too wide now.
And he finds Joe Dawson, too, the old laundryman.
Buys the laundry, gives it back to Joe, tells him, "Leave whenever you get bored, go find freedom."
But Joe won't leave. Joe's found a measure of comfort. He likes having a steady job, a decent suit, money for dances and girls.
It's another layer of disillusionment for Martin. The working-class Joe represents doesn't actually want the radical freedom Martin idealizes. They want the stability and small comforts of the very bourgeois life Martin now despises.
So Martin settles his debts,
Yeah.
gives his sister Gertrude the $500 he promised, paying back her initial $5 investment 100 times over. And then he just leaves.
Books passage on a ship, the Mariposa. He's running away from his own success, from the emptiness of it all.
And even on the ship, surrounded by other wealthy passengers, he feels completely alone.
Utterly isolated. He finds them boring, shallow, suffering from spiritual limitation and intellectual poverty. Success hasn't brought connection. It's just highlighted his alienation. He feels this constant pain to live.
He's climbed the mountain, he's the intellectual Superman he may be set out to be, but the view is lonely, and the people around him seem like insects.
Which leads to the final act. In the tropics, under the stars, he slips overboard.
But his body fights back. That raw survival instinct kicks in. The sailor in him starts swinging, trying to live.
It's his last battle, isn't it? His conscious, disillusioned mind against the unconscious, biological will to survive.
And the mind wins. He forces himself to stop swimming. He chooses oblivion. He lets the sea take him. A final, deliberate rejection of a life that success had rendered meaningless. Hashtag outro.
So, Martin Eden's story. It's this powerful, tragic arc, isn't it? All that incredible energy, that ferocious drive, fueled by love and ambition.
Yeah, and he gets there. He achieves everything society supposedly values. But he only gets the applause when he no longer wants it, when he's already seen through the whole game.
He found that the world didn't value him, the striving, learning, creating Martin. It only valued the result, the fame, the money, the things that came after the struggle, after he'd already decided they were hollow.
His philosophy, that Spencerian individualism, maybe it helped him climb, but it also cut him off, didn't it? He rose above the herd, only to find the herd unbearable and the summit completely empty.
He mastered the world of facts and ideas, but the supposedly refined world of culture turned out to be, in his eyes, full of people who were just spiritually and intellectually bankrupt. Walking stomachs, as the source puts it.
His mistake wasn't in the effort, maybe, but in the prize he was chasing all along. He learned so much, saw so clearly, that the reward became worthless the moment he got it.
And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really sharp question, especially relevant today, maybe. In our world obsessed with validation, with making it.
If success just means getting approval from people whose standards you've already surpassed, whose values you've maybe come to reject, what's the real point? What's the actual cost of winning that game?
Was Martin Eden's tragedy unique to him? His genius, maybe? Or does it say something more fundamental about a society that perhaps isn't built to recognize or reward authentic struggle and real artistic vision until it's safely packaged and profitable? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Until the next deep dive, keep digging.